At 5:23 p.m. local time, the late sun slid toward the horizon over the southern Red Sea. Far beneath the calm surface of steaming commerce and container traffic, a stovepiped conflict played out among proxies, unmanned systems, and legacy Cold War weapons. A U.S. Air Force F-16 from the 421st Fighter Squadron patrolled high cover above a U.S. naval task force moving along Yemen's coast. The mission: presence, overwatch, and deterrence. The environment: cluttered airspace, overlapping maritime routes, and a mix of conventional and irregular forces probing boundaries. Within minutes, what began as routine overwatch transformed into a textbook demonstration of modern countermeasures, networked warfare, and doctrinal decisions about escalation and signaling. A Houthi-operated SA-6 gainful system fired. The F-16 crew engaged layered defenses. A Reaper drone later absorbed a strike that left it damaged but operational. The U.S. response was fast and doctrinally novel. A guided missile destroyer launched SM-6 missiles in a surface strike role. Carrier-based aircraft struck storage and launch facilities, and Tomahawks finished hardened targets. The event was more than kinetic action. It revealed how legacy weapons survive in proxy hands, how layered defense works in practice, and how escalation calculus unfolds under time pressure. This is the long, technical, and strategic story of those hours. The weapons, the tactics, the decisions, and the consequences. Chapter 1. The weapon. SA-6 gainful. From Cold War workhorse to asymmetric threat. To grasp the stakes, you must understand the SA-6. Developed by the Soviet Union in the 1960s, the SA-6 2K12 Kub/NATO gainful was engineered as a medium-range, mobile surface-to-air missile system. Its combination of mobility, tracked launcher, integrated radar, engagement illumination radar, and a capable intercept missile made it highly effective against fixed-wing aircraft operating at medium altitudes. The SA-6's battlefield reputation was cemented in 1973 during the Yom Kippur War, when coordinated SA-6 deployments severely challenged Israeli air superiority and precipitated a change in NATO tactics, particularly the emphasis on sea aid, suppression of enemy air defenses. Technically, the SA-6 uses ground-based radar to acquire and track targets. It receives operator guidance during the missile's mid-course flight, then typically switches to an onboard seeker, semi-active or active depending on variant in the terminal phase. That requirement for ground illumination creates a characteristic vulnerability: break the radar lock, and the missile's mid-course updates are degraded or lost. However, modernized variants, especially those retrofitted with Iranian upgrades, can include improved seekers, upgraded radars, and networked command nodes that mitigate old weaknesses. Mobility is another force multiplier. A tracked launcher can relocate quickly, complicating time-sensitive strikes. Between 2014 and 2015, multiple SA-6 systems were captured by the Houthis during the collapse of Yemen's Central Authority. Over the following years, Iranian assistance reportedly improved remote radar networking and seeker upgrades, extending effective range, refining accuracy, and integrating them into a broader asymmetric package of ballistic missiles and drones. What once was a legacy system in a museum now re-emerged as a fielded threat, capable of challenging advanced fighters and loitering UAVs, particularly when combined with clever emplacement, shoot-and-scoot discipline, and exploitation of local terrain in Houthi and surrounding regions. Chapter 2. Inside the cockpit. The F-16 under fire. A pilot's perspective. At the moment the SA-6 crew decided to fire, the pilot's cognitive loop tightened. Detect, assess, decide, act. The F-16 pilot's console lit with missile warnings. The radar enemy track widget eyed a bright hostile. The timeline of a SAM engagement is unforgiving. Detection to intercept can be measured in seconds. The pilot's training hundreds of hours of high-threat intercepts, simulated SAM volleys at red flag, and CA drills took over. Key elements of the pilot's response. In CA doctrine, this reduces radar line-of-sight exposure and tries to place the fighter in a geometry where the ground radar has difficulty maintaining a lock. It also compresses the missile's flight envelope relative to the aircraft. But it's not foolproof. If the opposing radar maintains lock, and the missile has reliable mid-course guidance, the maneuver must be combined with electronic and expendable countermeasures. Kinematic evasion, high G rolls, high-rate turns, and unpredictable vector changes are used to deny the missile a simple intercept geometry. Aggressive maneuvering imposes sensor tracking challenges and forces the missile to perform more complex guidance corrections. Layered countermeasures. The pilot's countermeasure suite is layered. Expendable decoys, flares/chaff, onboard jammers ALQ suite, and platform situational awareness, radar, RWR, missile launch warning systems. Timing is critical. Flares can lure infrared seekers but are less effective against radar-guided missiles, while chaff can obscure or confuse radar seekers but is volume limited. The tension in the cockpit was palpable. In seconds, multiple SA-6 missiles were inbound. The Pit's underwing dispensers detected launch signatures via ultraviolet sensors and immediately ejected dozens of flares and chaff bundles, creating both IR and RF confusion fields. The pilot then called for jamming. The AN/ALQ-184 pod began transmitting deceptive signals and digital RF memory playback sequences across the SA-6's engagement bands. This degraded the ground radar's ability to provide consistent mid-course updates. The missiles, once dependent on that data, degraded into ballistic arcs and splashed into the sea. What the pilot experienced was the confluence of training, sensor fusion, and hardware. It's worth emphasizing how rarely any one system guarantees survival. Rather, it's the integration of tactics, expendables, electronic warfare, and the pilot's decisions that create survivable conditions. The F-16's victory was not the result of a silver bullet. It was layered and redundant defeat of a capable threat. Chapter 3. Unmanned, but vulnerable. The MQ-9 Reaper incident. 44 minutes after the F-16 engagement, the Houthis attempted a second strike, this time against an MQ-9 Reaper conducting ISR intelligence, surveillance reconnaissance. Reapers are invaluable for persistent overwatch, convoy tracking, and targeting refinement. But they trade maneuverability for endurance and payload. They lack the high-G agility of fighters, and they cannot perform immediate, complex evasive maneuvers. The Reaper's survival strategy is electronic and procedural. Detect the threat early via radar warning receivers, ALR-69, employ countermeasure dispensers, AN/ALR-47, and execute immediate climb-descent profiles to exploit missile-seeker blind cones. The drone's operator, monitoring telemetry and sensor feeds, had seconds to authorize evasive action. The missile detonated at a distance, but not before fragments from its proximity warhead peppered the Reaper's right wing. The drone returned, damaged to shabbily. Maintainers patched ballistic punctures and prepared it for redeployment. Operationally, this incident highlighted three things. UAV survivability is conditional. Persistent ISR is essential, but unescorted drones in high-threat corridors require additional risk mitigation, adjunct jamming, fighter escort, standoff operations, command trade-offs. Authorizing drones into contested airspace yields valuable intel but increases force protection burdens. Commanders must weigh ISR worth against potential loss or escalation. Psychological signal. The Houthis' willingness to target a U.S. Reaper and the earlier attempt on a manned jet signaled intent to escalate and to test U.S. thresholds. Chapter 4. U.S. Tactical Decision. Why the SM-6 was chosen. The Houthi strikes placed U.S. commanders at a decision node. Surgical, time-sensitive retaliation or protracted attrition campaign. Traditionally, Tomahawk cruise missiles are the go-to for precision land strike. They have long-range MU-1600 mm and can loiter in complex trajectories, but they take longer to arrive and are better for fixed targets. Intelligence indicated the SM-6 launcher was mobile, capable of displacing tens of miles within hours. Speed mattered. Enter the SM-6, an evolved intercept missile, optimized for high-speed engagements with aircraft and certain ballistic threats. It flies at Mach 3.5 and has a combination of active radar homing and networked guidance via edge-shipboard sensors. Repurposed for a surface-to-surface engagement, the SM-6 offered a rapid, high-speed strike option with precision and little time for the target to flee. Operational advantages of SM-6 in this context: speed and timeliness, faster time to target than Tomahawk. In a mobile launcher environment, minutes can be decisive. Sensor fusion, integration with edge-shipboard sensors and offboard intelligence, e.g. ISR, SIGINT, provides dynamic targeting solution updates mid-flight. Survivability against air defenses. High speed and maneuverability complicate interception, especially where local air defenses lack integrated BMD or high-altitude interceptors. Deploying SM-6s, particularly in a non-standard surface strike role, carried symbolic and doctrinal weight. It signaled a willingness to use advanced interceptors as precision offensive tools. The destruction of the SA-6 launcher and radar array via SM-6 blanks the Houthi ability to rapidly reconstitute a given firing capability in that location. Chapter 5. Carrier strike operations, sequencing, logistics and mission design. Following the SM-6 strike, maritime aviation asserted the next phase. A carrier strike group CSG offers unparalleled sustained strike capacity, organic tanking with CSG or carrier-based tankers, forward basing, rapid rearming and tempo. The USS Harry S. Truman provided an air wing capable of persistent multi-axis strikes. Key operational considerations. Weapon selection. AGM-154 JSOW. The JSOW is a glide weapon that allows aircraft to deliver munitions from outside the engagement envelopes of many surface-to-air systems. High-altitude release can afford ranges up to 130 kilometers. The JSOW payload variants permit focused fragmentation, penetrator or submunition effects against both soft and semi-hardened targets. Using JSOWs minimized fighter exposure in the face of remaining air defenses and allowed for coordinated effects over a wide footprint. Mission sequencing and air refueling. Sustained air operations require cyclic launches and recovery, with catapult cycles coordinated to maintain persistent pressure. Tanking assets, either carrier-based or CSG provided, ensure fighters can loiter and conduct multiple attack runs. Tomahawk shore strike integration. Destroyers like the USS Gravely launched Tomahawks at hardened bunkers that resisted glide bomb effects. Tomahawks delivered deep penetration, long-range precision strikes to complement carrier aviation's more flexible standoff effects. Targeting and battle damage assessment, BDA. Post-strike ISR, satellite, UAV, human intel, scan sites for secondary explosions, vehicle movements and communications to validate mission success and shape follow-on attacks. Across one intensively managed evening, U.S. forces executed multi-domain strikes that destroyed ballistic missile stockpiles, SA-6 launchers and cruise missile inventories. They did so while managing escalation risk, coalition messaging, and legal considerations. Chapter 6. The Role of Training and Doctrine, Why Pilots Survived. The F-16's survival was not accidental. It was an artifact of training doctrine, SWAP-C, size, weight, power, cost, investments in countermeasure suites, and joint tactics. Red flag and large force exercises. Pilots rotating through red flag and similar intense exercises face synthetic but realistic SAM threats. They practice SEA, defensive maneuvers, ECAM, electronic counter-air, and multi-aircraft coordination. These exercises build muscle memory that prove decisive during the narrowing seconds of the engagement. Suppression versus destruction doctrine. SE-8 aims to suppress enemy radars during the period of friendly operations, while destruction aims to physically eliminate systems. The US used both. Defensive tactics, suppression via jamming and expendables, protected the F-16 in the moment. SM-6 and subsequent strikes embodied destruction, removing the threat for the longer term. Integrated Air Defense System, IADS approach. Fighting against a networked air defense requires sensor fusion and rapid kill chain closure. The US achieved this through ISR, signals intelligence, and rapid tasking of surface and air assets. Chapter 7. Iran's role and the proxy context. The Houthis' availability of SA-6s and their apparent proficiency at using them owes in part to external support. Over the last decade, multiple open-source analyses and defense assessments have documented Iranian facilitation, shipment of spare parts, training, radar and seeker upgrades, and advice in mobile emplacement. Tehran's strategic calculus in Yemen is to maintain plausible deniability while projecting influence into the Red Sea, crucial maritime choke points like Bab al-Mandeb and the approaches to the Suez Canal. Iran's assistance transforms the operational picture. A formerly peripheral insurgent group becomes a regional actor with asymmetric anti-access area denial A2AD capabilities. This proliferation increases the risk calculus for external powers, who must now consider proxy threats as potential triggers for more expansive operations. For the US, confronting Houthi attacks cannot be isolated from the larger interplay of Iranian regional strategy. Chapter 8. Strategic and legal considerations. Kinetic responses in a congested maritime theater are layered with legal and strategic implications. Proportionality and escalation management. International law and US rules of engagement demand proportional responses. Destroying a launcher involved combatant targets directly linked to attacks on US forces, making the strike legally defensible. Yet escalation risk remains. Strikes can compel state or non-state actors to widen conflict. Signaling versus de-escalation. The selection of SM-6 sent a strong deterrent message to Tehran and local proxies. Some tools normally reserved for high-end threats are now on the table for persistent deterrence. Yet signaling must be calibrated to avoid unintended escalation, particularly where proxy networks can respond asymmetrically, e.g. maritime harassment, cyber operations, insurgent attacks. Coalition diplomacy and maritime security. Protecting commercial corridors required partnering with regional navies, informing commercial shipping stakeholders, and communicating via diplomatic channels to constrain escalation while maintaining freedom of navigation. Chapter 9. Operational lessons and future implications. Several operational lessons emerge. Legacy systems retain value. Even older SAM systems, when modernized and coupled with savvy employment, can threaten modern platforms. Investment in countermeasures and training remains essential. UAV risk management. Drones require layered protections or escort in high-threat corridors. Their ISR value is high, but commanders must manage the trade-off between intelligence gain and platform risk. Rapid, flexible strike options matter. SM-6 demonstrated that having multi-purpose, fast-response strike options enhances deterrence in mobile target environments. Intelligence fusion is decisive. Rapid targeting required integrating SIGINT, HUMINT, satellite imagery and UAV feeds to discriminate mobile launchers from decoys. Proxy warfare complexity. Operations in proxy contexts force decision-makers to account for deniability, attribution challenges, and escalation ladders. Attribution precision is critical before kinetic retaliation. Chapter 10. Wider geostrategic ramifications. The immediate tactical victory. Survival of the F-16, the Reaper returning, and the destruction of Houthi launch platforms, ripples outward. Shipping and global trade. The Bab el-Mandeb Strait is a choke point. Continued Houthi provocation risks commercial insurance spikes, route diversions, and long-term impacts on global trade flows. Regional balance. The operation demonstrated U.S. capability and willingness to protect assets. Allied navies and regional partners observed a clear signal. Iran and proxies recorded the limits of plausible deniability. Escalation responses. Future Houthi actions may go to asymmetric harassment, sea mines, small boat swarm attacks, rather than direct strikes against high-value assets. Conversely, proxies may test thresholds with cyber or clandestine operations elsewhere. Arms control and non-proliferation imperatives. The incident underscores the consequences of missile proliferation. International mechanisms and diplomacy should emphasize interdiction and regional stabilization to prevent similar escalations. Final assessment. What this engagement means: this sequence of events was a microcosm of modern conflict. Old and new weapons intertwined, autonomous systems and human pilots operating in the same battle space, rapid decision loops compressing time for political and military leaders alike. The U.S. demonstrated operational resilience, defensive measures saving an aircraft, offensive capabilities removing threats, and carrier air power imposing broader attrition. Yet the engagement also revealed vulnerabilities. Autonomous ISR platforms need protection, legacy air defenses remain dangerous in capable hands, and proxy networks can catalyze crises that require careful, calibrated responses. For policymakers, the incident is a strategic prompt. Invest in integrated countermeasures, accelerate procurement of adaptive strike and defense options, and intensify diplomatic efforts to reduce the risk of proxy escalation.